They didn't understand what they'd done. Not really. To them, Earth was just another backwater planet with oversized pride. Humanity was tolerated, studied, occasionally insulted at galactic meetings, but rarely taken seriously. They hadn't declared war. They hadn't colonized the stars like the old empires. They didn't demand tribute or speak loudly in the chambers of power. Instead, they listened. Quietly. Coldly. That should have been the first warning. The Galactic Council had grown fat on its own superiority. It forgot the scent of blood that built it. Hundreds of species sat in plush seats, governed by tradition and diplomacy, protected by fleets and fear. But peace made them arrogant, and arrogance led to forgetfulness. They forgot the humans only arrived after surviving themselves, that no one had ever seen the depths of what humanity kept buried. The abduction wasn't an act of war. It wasn't even considered important. Just a simple extraction mission on a neutral fringe colony where a Terran ambassador had docked for refueling. A council strike team was deployed to grab leverage. Not even a soldier, just the ambassador's child. A message. A pressure point. A reminder that the council was still in control. The mission vanished within 20 minutes. The entire strike team, 14 members, each trained in assassination and silent entry, disappeared without a signal. Backup was dispatched. All they found was static. No bodies. No ship. No data. Just a single message carved into the durasteel walls of the hangar. You touched what we guard. Now bleed. At first, they laughed. The council circulated rumors of Terran theatric. Some blamed pirates. Others claimed the ambassador had staged it for political leverage. But then a surveillance drone picked up a fragment of footage from the nearby nebula rim. 2 human life signatures boarding an unauthorized drop shuttle. One in black. The other draped in something that looked like a Terran flag. No insignias. No broadcast IDs. Just 2 shadows gliding through deep space toward Council territory. An emergency vote was called. The humans denied involvement. Earth's delegates didn't speak much, just offered 3 words. You should run. The chamber erupted in mockery. Even the elder species joined in. Humanity had overstepped, they claimed. They'd made a myth and believed in it too deeply. Then a research outpost on Araka's 9 went silent. No distress call. No orbital readings. 32 personnel vanished. Then a weapons lab. Then a naval depot. Then a planetary governor's palace, reduced to scorched rock and silence in the middle of a diplomatic conference. The footage wasn't clear. What little was recovered showed fragments of movement, too fast, too precise. Sentries turned on each other. Ships exploded from the inside. External hulls melted and compressed like aluminum under fists. One blurred frame captured 2 humans walking side by side through a flaming corridor, guns lowered, eyes forward, as if none of it mattered. The military branches demanded retaliation. Fleets were launched. Patrols spread through fringe systems. The humans were ghosts. They never struck the same way twice. Sometimes they destroyed entire strongholds. Sometimes they left everything untouched except the leadership's bodies, stacked in silence under the council's emblem, burned into the walls with plasma. The galaxy started whispering again. Old stories. Human myth. Legends of Earth's ancient demons. Soldiers who didn't die. Shadows that could clear a battlefield with just a look. The names rose from the depth. Baba Yaga. Boogeyman. Words that had no translation, only dread. Reports came from opposite ends of space. 2 individuals. One male, one female. The male walked like war itself, calm and brutal, eyes unreadable, his weapons an extension of will. The female moved faster than cameras could follow, her cloak trailing stars and stripes like a hunting flag. Together, they carved a line through the galaxy's core systems, not conquering, not claiming, just erasing. Every admiral who pursued them went dark. Every bounty failed. Mercenaries turned sides. Pirates fled sectors. A council dreadnought, the Vostera, tracked the pair to a remote asteroid belt. It broadcast their coordinates. Then it stopped transmitting. Later, scavengers found the wreckage crushed into a sphere the size of a shuttle. No survivors. No black box. The Council no longer debated. It screamed. Sanctions on Earth. War declarations. Demands. Ultimatums. Earth said nothing. The humans watching the Council didn't answer to governments anymore. They didn't sit in chairs or sign treaties. They were what came after diplomacy failed. The duo began targeting communication relays. Military command chains collapsed. Orders were jammed, reversed, or ignored. Planets began surrendering the moment their sensors detected the two Terran signatures. One of the insectoid empires offered 100 million credits for their capture, then retracted the bounty 3 hours later after their capital city's main tower collapsed from within, leaving only an American flag pinned to the top by a blade. Then the interrogations began. The Council started dragging humans from outposts, colonies, civilian transports. They wanted answers. Names. Coordinates. None were given. Most interrogators went mad after a week. Not because of what the prisoners said, but because they didn't seem afraid. At all. Even under threat of death. One human simply said, "You've already lost. They're not coming for justice. They're here for the reckoning." Fleet morale collapsed in under a month. Ships were abandoned. Generals faked death reports. Council meetings were now held in secret bunkers deep beneath shifting moons. And still, the duo came. Quiet. Merciless. Clinical. They didn't scream. They didn't boast. They didn't negotiate. They executed. The turning point came when the Council broadcast a universal declaration of authority, announcing Earth as a rogue state and placing a system-wide kill order on all known human agents. The feed was hijacked mid-broadcast. For 10 seconds, the entire galaxy saw the two figures standing before a burning council hall. One held a captured rifle. The other dropped the dismembered emblem of the council on the floor. No words were spoken. The feed cut out. Nothing else was needed. Children across the stars started having nightmares. Refugees flooded neutral systems, begging for sanctuary. Former enemies of humanity started blocking entry points, hoping to avoid attention. Human names were banned in some sectors. Cultural historians began researching old Earth folklore, trying to understand the thing now walking among them. Whispers turned into prayers. Not to be saved. To be ignored. The Council couldn't unite. Too much fear. Too much blood lost. A faction of younger species proposed full surrender and reparation. They were executed in a purge ordered by what was left of Council command. That purge triggered rebellion. Systems collapsed from the inside. And still, the humans said nothing. No declaration. No speech. No terms. The last transmission received before the archives were erased came from a freighter captain who witnessed the pair land on a military moon. She described them simply. The man looked like death had been wearing his skin for years. The woman looked like she remembered every war Earth ever fought, and missed all of them. It started with the Turvac blockade falling without resistance. A full ring of 39 cruisers gone in under an hour. When reinforcements arrived, all that remained were burning husks and a single phrase burned into a blackened hull plate. This is not revenge. This is instruction. They moved with precision, each strike calculated, not for body count, but for consequence. A system lost its gravity stabilizer. Another, its fusion bank. One lost its counselor mid-speech, the blade that killed him thrown from 600 meters through armored glass. These weren't random attacks. These were reminders. No defense was too strong. No leader too protected. No empire untouchable. Council protocol broke down. Every meeting was filled with accusations. Accusations became threats. Threats turned to violence. Allied races began withdrawing support, citing cultural incompatibility with human conflict resolution. That was the polite version. The truth was simpler. They were terrified. Each report, each recording, each survivor only made the panic worse. The man in black was never seen speaking. He just acted. Efficient. Final. The woman in the star-striped cape was faster than sensors could track, her presence always followed by silence, steel, and a single bullet casing left standing on end, somehow never falling. A mercenary fleet, over 8,000 strong, swore allegiance to the Council to stop them. 3 days later, the fleet was found in orbit, every ship disabled, engines removed with surgical exactness. No deaths. No blood. Just a message etched into the lead cruiser's hull. You were not the enemy. Don't be again. The myth hardened into doctrine. No one claimed to understand them. Some believed they were genetically engineered. Others said they were ancient Terran weapons reawakened by forgotten codes. A few suggested they weren't human at all, just the universe wearing humanity's shape to punish arrogance. Theories spread like fire. None matched the reality. They weren't gods. They bled. But they didn't stop. Entire species rewrote their survival handbook. Training academies replaced xenology courses with ancient Earth war studies. Shipbuilders began installing fallback modules, escape routes, and self-destruct cores that could be activated at the sight of a red, white, and blue cape. Civilizations that once considered humanity primitive now tracked every Terran heartbeat across the stars, hoping to never hear them stop. But it was too late. The Council tried containment. It failed. They tried negotiation. No response. Then they tried appeasement. A High Chancellor offered the return of every artifact, every Terran child taken, and a full retreat from disputed space. The offer was broadcast. No reply. The next morning, the High Chancellor's compound exploded from the inside out. Only his ring was recovered, stuck in a steel column 20 meters from the blast zone. The Council's AI War Division proposed predictive strike patterns to intercept the pair. Every prediction failed. Not because the calculations were wrong, but because the duo never repeated a method. They improvised destruction with elegance. They adapted, learned, and evolved faster than any algorithm. Then the panic turned inward. The Council suspected infiltration. Paranoia spread. Internal purges became daily occurrences. Anyone accused of sympathy toward humanity was executed. Members fled. Uprisings broke out. In 6 weeks, more damage was done from within than the Terrans had inflicted directly. Still, the attacks came. Fast. Sharp. Surgical. A weapons factory buried under 10 kilometers of reinforced stone disappeared beneath a crater. A black site prison shattered from a single gravity spike, a Terran child walking out untouched, a Terran flag left folded on the console beside the warden's body. One ruling species vanished entirely after inviting the pair to parley. Their star went supernova 24 hours later. No scientific cause was found. The Council finally acknowledged reality. These weren't random humans. They were not part of any military hierarchy. Earth's silence proved that. These two operated beyond diplomacy, jurisdiction, or law. They didn't negotiate. They didn't announce. They didn't justify. They just moved. One system governor tried humor to de-escalate. Broadcast a parody, mocking the legends, wearing a Halloween mask and a cloak painted like Earth's flag. It went viral across 14 systems. The laughter died when his palace turned into a crater 4 hours later. No survivors. No footage. Just the word respect burned into the surface with kinetic impact point. The Council abandoned protocol. They authorized unrestricted warfare. Drone fleets were dispatched. Hundreds of assassins from the Vesk Guild, known galaxy-wide for terminating entire planetary governments in silence, were sent. Not one returned. The Vesk Guild dissolved 3 days later. An ancient war machine, buried for eons, was reawakened from the old war. Massive, sentient, and constructed to resist planetary sieges. It confronted the pair on a moon's surface. A transmission from the machine was later recovered. One line. No emotion. No embellishment. This task exceeds my function. I choose death. It self-destructed. The moon cracked in half. Humanity never took credit. Earth didn't move a fleet. didn't make a speech. Their silence made it worse. Leaders couldn't comprehend a species that didn't crave credit, that didn't posture, that didn't send reinforcements, just two of their own, enough to topple everything. An intelligence director from the Council's internal branch defected. He sent out a restricted file, known only to Council leadership, containing early Terran mythological transcripts, psychological profiles, behavioral map. It highlighted one fatal error. The Council never understood that Earth's worst monsters were always the ones who stood against monsters. Entire sectors began installing early detection systems, not for fleets but for footstep. Traders blacklisted Earth systems, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Cartographers began marking Terran-influenced space with red zones and the phrase, "No contact, no reason, no return." Council species turned against each other. Everyone suspected everyone. They all believed someone had triggered it. No one claimed responsibility. They feared being named next. The Council, once proud of its unity, now shattered, driven by fear of two humans who never asked for war, but never denied it when it came. The final attempt to contain them began with desperation disguised as strategy. The Council summoned every sovereign fleet still loyal, conscripted bounty hunters, reactivated old Black Ops projects, and authorized alliances with former enemies. They called it Operation Iron Sky. The objective was simple: end the legends. Kill them or die trying. Iron Sky didn't survive 24 hours. The fleet never even reached its staging ground. Half of its navigation AI turned rogue before departure. The other half imploded from a data corruption virus no one could trace. By the time the command crews realized they'd been compromised, the entire core carrier, 60 decks high, was drifting into a red dwarf. No escape pods launched. No final words were sent. Only one signal remained, pulsing in binary: "You were warned." The operation's failure shattered what was left of morale. No one volunteered after that. Enlistment collapsed. High command fractured into regional warlords arguing over what species would be targeted next. The problem was no longer the two humans walking unopposed across star systems. The problem was the idea of them. Fear became doctrine. Paranoia became law. Systems began sealing their borders. Planets refused off-world access. Surveillance tech was ripped out. Anything that could be tracked could be hunted, and no one wanted to be next. Entire planetary governments shut down overnight. Populations declared neutrality without prompting. Civilizations began pretending Earth didn't exist. The Council, down to its final seats of influence, retreated to an ancient bastion, buried beneath layers of defense, cloaked from all known detection systems, sealed behind void space encryption walls. It wasn't a palace. It was a tomb built by cowards praying not to be seen. They were seen. No alarms triggered. No defenses activated. No warnings flashed. The facility just went silent. Observation posts caught a flicker of movement. A streak of red and black. Then static. When scouts arrived days later, there were no bodies, only empty chairs and the scent of ozone. On the central command table was a small Terran medal, rusted with age, etched with the words, "We remember." The Council ceased to exist. No message was sent. No celebration. No occupation. Because they didn't want to rule. They never did. The galactic network collapsed without coordination. Sectors once reliant on centralized navigation blacked out. Interstellar travel slowed to a crawl. Traders went dark. Communications fractured. No one trusted anyone. No one asked for help. They feared who might answer. Species turned inward, reverting to isolationist survival. Old enemies forged fragile pacts, not out of diplomacy, but shared dread. They no longer feared war. They feared attention. They feared being noticed by the two humans who had reduced a galactic superstructure into forgotten rubble. Some believed they were done. That the message had been delivered. That the fire had passed. They were wrong. The duel wasn't finished. Because it was never about victory. It was about memory. They moved into regions untouched by war. Not to destroy, but to unmake. Data cores, archives, cultural records, historical vaults, gone. Not vaporized, deleted. Entire empires woke to find their legacies erased. Nothing left. Not even hate. Just the void of being forgotten. It was worse than death. One by one, species realized they were being removed. Not as punishment, as consequence. When you become cruel enough to think you own the galaxy, you don't get remembered in it. And Earth stayed silent. The humans never sent replacements, never claimed territory, never installed governance. They just stopped answering calls. Their old embassies were closed. Their trade beacons dark. Their colonies untouched. They walked away from the galaxy they'd just shattered, and left it to figure out what it had become. In their absence, stories flourished. Entire religions formed. Some called the two judgment. Some called them balance. Others simply called them the end. But not one dared say their names. Not out loud. Because names have power. And those names had already rewritten history. 1,000 years passed. No contact. No confirmation. Then, one day, a merchant ship traveling near the old neutral zone caught a ping. Not a threat. Not a signal. Just music. Terran music. Classical. Violins. Slow and patient. The kind of sound that felt like warning disguised as beauty. The crew didn't investigate. They left the system and erased the coordinate. Because some doors, once closed, should stay that way. Galactic maps now show a black sector, uncharted, forbidden. No patrols fly near it. No probes return. It's just labeled with one phrase in every known language. Do not disturb what watches. No one asks anymore what happened to the Council. No one debates the myth. They know. They understand. Not because they saw it, but because they still feel it. In the way leaders speak quieter now. In the way diplomats choose their words like lifelines. In the way entire species ensure no human child is ever touched, ever threatened, ever made to fear. There are still wars. Still violence. But never with Earth. Never again. And when new empires rise, the old ones tell them a story. About the time the galaxy broke its own rules. And humanity didn't send an army. They sent two. Just two. One who moved like death in silence. And one who carried her flag like a blade. They say those two still walk. Not because they need to, but because the galaxy needs reminding. That even myths bleed. Even legends fall. And even stars scream when they're torn apart. But humanity, when pushed, becomes something else entirely. Not saviors. Not conquerors. Just consequences. And that is something no species will ever forget. Not for 1,000 years. Not ever. Because once, just once, the galaxy got a glimpse of what Earth truly was when it stopped holding back. And it never wanted to see it again.